Welcome back to our last session. And in this session, I'm going to talk about how we can serve in a way that impacts people. How can we serve to make the most impact? And I'm going to read a couple passages, but then I'm also going to talk about different domains of life so we can think about where we might make the biggest difference and think about where has God placed us strategically so that we can be salt and light in this world. Now, speaking of that, I want to start with this. Matthew 5:13-16. Jesus says to his followers, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." So two metaphors were salt and light. I'm going to talk more about these two metaphors in a second. But one thing I want to start with is, in order to be salt and light in the world, we need to be in the world, right? How can people see our good works and glorify our Father in heaven if we're not actually in the world? And this corresponds to what Jesus said. He said when he was praying in the garden, "Father, I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but rather to preserve them in the world." And so if we want to make an impact, if we want to serve to make a difference, we need to be engaged. We need to be in the world, but not of it. But again, we need to be in the world nonetheless. So let's talk about salt and light. First of all, what is salt? Salt is a preservative. So back in the ancient days, before they had refrigerators and freezers, they would preserve things like meats and other perishable items with salt. Likewise, the church is called to be a preservative to society. Through our testimony, through our influence, we are called to make the world a better place, a more just place, a more righteous place. Not top down, heavy-handedly, but again, as we're like salt, as we spread out into the world, organically, we should make a difference. Okay, we're called to be a preservative. But also salt, as you probably know, is flavorful, right? It adds flavor. In the same way, we should add beauty and goodness to the world. This stands out to me because oftentimes people people encounter Christians or they go to church and it doesn't leave a good taste in their mouth. Rather, they have a bad experience or they meet hypocritical Christians. This is a reminder that we should live with integrity. We should live with authenticity so that the people who encounter us have a good taste in their mouth. They say, wow, something's different about this person. They're the real deal. They really know God, and it shows, right? We don't want to, again, give people a bad experience unnecessarily. But when we encounter people, they should walk away feeling encouraged and blessed. Shortly after I got saved, my whole household became more open to the gospel, partly because they saw how I was genuinely a new person, right? No one knew how messed up I was more than my own family. So when they saw that I was changed, well, that piqued their curiosity. And that should be a regular experience for Christians. We should pique people's curiosity through our life testimony. Our example is oftentimes the loudest message that we can share. And of course, salt also purifies. Salt is a powerful purifier. And similar to the preservative point, we should make society a better place. Wherever God puts us, whether it's in the realm of education or government or the workforce or the marketplace, wherever God puts us, we should make that place better because of our testimony and our presence. Now, light does a couple of things. First, light shines. Matthew 5:16 says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." Like light, we should let our good works shine. In other words, we shouldn't reserve our good works to a couple hours on Sunday But we should exercise our faith all week long, all day long, so that people around us can see that we're different and they can glorify our Father in heaven. So don't be that person who on Sunday morning you're all smiles and kindness, but then in the office you're mean and heavy-handed. Don't be the Christian who on Sunday morning, you wear your best outfit and you're nice and orderly, but then the night before you're partying and getting drunk and sleeping around. Let your light shine all the time, not just on Sunday mornings. And light also guides. Ephesians 5:8 says, "For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light." Our life should serve as an example to people. And it should help guide people to faith. But also, we should be like Paul, who can say to our brother or sister, "Follow me as I follow Christ," because we're living out our faith with genuineness and authenticity and integrity. Okay, so our life example should be a model that others can follow. Of course, not perfect, but a role model. We should be a role model nonetheless. Okay, we should be a role model nonetheless. I'm so thankful for the people in my lives who I've had the chance to look up to. So I've been married at the time of filming this for a few years, but long before I even met my wife, I got to see the godly example of other faithful couples in the church, and that really helped me prepare for marriage myself. And so whatever life season you're in, you can be an example to others. Whether you're serving in youth ministry, kids ministry, whatever context, may your life be something that others can look to as an example. And as Christians, our impact should spread. Now, what I want to do to close this session is go over, as I mentioned earlier, different domains of life to see where has God placed you to make a difference. Some Christians are going to be called to the realm of arts and entertainment. Genesis 1:31, "Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good, so that evening and the morning were the sixth day." Now, creation is an artwork in itself. And so in the arts and in entertainment, we have an opportunity to reflect God's creativity, to reflect his beauty, right? Christian entertainment, Christian art should not be stereotyped as just automatically not as good. But Christians should produce the best art, the best entertainment, all while holding on to their values. And so maybe God has placed you in that realm. Maybe he's gifted you in an area that's relevant for that field. That's okay. We need Christians in the arts. We need Christian actors, directors, painters, drawers, graphic designers. We need Christian producers, right? We need Christians in every field of life. That includes business. Deuteronomy 8:18. "And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day." So we can reflect people in the business world as well, both by providing excellent service, excellent products, but also by practicing ethical business standards and how we treat our employees, what kind of services or goods we provide. And it's okay to generate wealth, because with that, we can be generous. We can serve the church. We can further God's mission. And so we need good businessmen and businesswomen who will shine the light of Christ in the business world. I mean, how important is that? The business world oftentimes is so cutthroat, so toxic, so unhealthy. What a breath of fresh air the church can be by sending people into the marketplace. Now, of course, there's also church and religion. This is kind of an obvious one, but we need full-time pastors. We need full-time church staff. We need theologians, scholars, people in Christian education who devote their lives to building up the body of Christ. So think, maybe you're called to full-time ministry. Pray about it. Ask the people around you how they see you being called. Matthew 16, 18, and 19. "And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. So when you work in the church, you get to be part of what God is building, what Christ is building. And so think about that. I know that now this requires a lot of discernment, but consider whether or not God is calling you to spend more time, to commit more of yourself in the local church. Of course, also digital media, which I kind of hinted at earlier. Isaiah 52:7, how beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who proclaims peace, who brings glad tidings of good things, who proclaims salvation, who says to Zion, your God reigns. Now, digital media is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it can be a huge distraction. It can be a major source of conflict as people debate with one another. It can also be a major temptation as there's so much explicit content, but it can also be a profound tool for good. With social media and the internet, we can bring the gospel anywhere from the convenience of our homes. Just thinking about this, there's so many awesome Christian podcasts, so many awesome Christian influencers, some who I know personally. And so digital media gives us an opportunity to spread the gospel, to be bearers of good news without even moving our feet. And so maybe that's something God has given you a burden for and a gift for, a personality for. Don't let anyone diminish that, because that is a valid way to serve God. It's a valid sphere of influence. Okay, so think about that. Not everyone's cut out to be, to kind of represent Christ in digital media. But then again, maybe everyone could in some way or fashion by, even if you just have a personal account, like what are you posting? What kind of message are you conveying, even through just like your personal posts and pictures and so on? Then of course, there's education and science. Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. We don't just need Christian teachers and Christian scholars, but we need, we don't just need Christian scholars in Christian institutions, but we need Christians in every educational institution, in every field of science, again, to further knowledge for the good of the world. And so maybe God has given you a gift for learning, a passion for learning. Maybe it's not in the area of religion, maybe it's in the area of science or something else, academic. That's okay too. You can represent Christ in the educational world and in the science community. You can be a doctor. We need Christian doctors. Some of the most encouraging doctors I've met were Christians who, when I was feeling sick and I was in just a terrible place, they were a blessing to me as a nurse or a doctor. And so you can be a huge light in the scientific world, in the medical field as well, is kind of relevant to this. Then you have family as well. For God commanded, saying, honor your father and your mother, and he who curses father or mother, let him be put to death. So, we also have an opportunity, or a responsibility, I should say, to represent Christ in the home. Husbands, fathers, you are the spiritual leader of your family. You are the priest of the home. As such, you need to be setting the spiritual bar in your family. You need to be praying for your wife and children. You need to be setting the example, establishing the priorities of church and Christian community and ministry. Wives, you're responsible to help your husband in this way, to also pray for your children, to be your husband's helper, to submit to your husband, and husband and wives, as they serve one another in the unique ways God has called them, as a husband leads the wife, as the wife submits to the husband, you reflect Christ in his relationship to the church. In the same way wives submit to their husbands, Christ, or the church submits to Christ. In the same way husbands lovingly care for their wives. That's Jesus. What did he do? He gave his life for the church. And so husbands and wives, you should reflect Christ in your marriage. Again, for the husband, by serving your wife like Jesus, sacrificially, selflessly, and wives, like the church, submitting to your husband. And of course, as parents, by reflecting authority in a healthy and life-giving way, because oftentimes children are going to associate God with their parents, right? Because that's the closest authority figure in their life that is tangible. And so by loving your child, by leading them well, by being kind and gracious, you can help give them a good impression of God as well. And then of course, kids, respect your parents, honor them. And in doing so, you'll also bring glory to God. Now, lastly, we can also be a light in government and politics. Again, this is a realm that can be so combative, so toxic, but Christians can reflect Christ-likeness in this arena. They can affect change to promote justice and well-being in the community. And so if God calls you to this area, don't be afraid to go for it. Right? Romans 13:1 says, "Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there's no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God." So if God calls you into the area of government by being a local official, a state official, whatever it may be, in that realm, you can use your influence to seek the good of the nation or the good of your community, the good of your school district. And again, you can promote godliness and you can promote justice through your influence. Now with this, I'll end Matthew 5:16. "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." May you let your light shine so that God will be glorified through you. I'll see you around in IGROW 4.